Okay, so I got the recording going. I already had my screen shared, so I wanted to touch base with you guys this evening, kind of review what we did last week. I apologize for the mishap. Our internet service provider in this area had a fiber optic line cut that feeds this whole entire area where I'm at. So we were without internet service for quite some time. So I apologize for the any inconvenience that might have happened on that. So last week, just to kind of recap, you had your discussion number two. Yeah, the can't do, won't do assignment. Then we had the draft lesson plan. So I've gotten all those reviewed and pretty much all the draft lesson plans look well. I've provided feedback on there. It's like, hey, your draft copy, your lesson plan looks good. So basically, really, you don't have any adjustments or revisions that you would need to do on that. So pretty much most everyone's ready to go ahead and submit that as their final draft copy. So you guys did a good job on that as far as picking out a behavior to focus on. The can't do, won't do assignment is interesting reviewing those. I hope you found that to be somewhat beneficial, give you some ideas. I looked at some of your feedback on it and several of them said, hey, this is kind of eye-opening. Once I did this, and it's a short activity to give you a pretty quick idea where the student literally just simply doesn't have a skill set to perform the task at hand that you presented, or they simply just don't want to do it. So most of you, I noticed when you offered incentives, for the most part, the largest percentage, they commented that they noticed an improvement in that student's efforts and overall performance. I had a couple that indicated they really didn't see a distinct difference. So again, it's always interesting to read that. So, anybody have any comment on that after you did it? Anything maybe that got your attention? Would you consider doing that again if you're trying to figure out if this kid simply can't do it or if he's just refusing to do it?
I think I made a bigger deal out of that assignment than I really needed to. I was stressing big time over that assignment. And then I just sat down and I'm like, okay, we're just going to do it. And then,
Yeah. Yeah, if you
so,
just kind
and
of
now
follow the steps that's laid out and just kind of go through there, it really will just kind of walk you through it. And it's just kind of gives you an idea on, if you make any adjustments, you write that score down, then you calculate it by like 1.2 and where they fall. So, yeah, go ahead. I didn't know if I cut you off there.
oh no, you're fine. And literally once I sat down and just was like, okay, I was just like, well, what about,
Yeah.
and I was making a bigger deal than what I needed to.
Yeah, sometimes on that I do have a few maybe that overthink it when really it's pretty simple. You just follow the basic steps and it'll give you a pretty quick indicator. And then we just asked you to write a little bit of a reflection on what you saw. Did it change the student's motivation? Did they work harder knowing that they had some incentive hanging out there based on maybe other behaviors you'd seen displayed by them leading up to that little kind of experiment that you did with that. So again, something, I mean, that might be a resource that you want to download and just keep it in your toolbox. So if you're struggling with the student, just trying to figure out, hey, is this really above his grade level or his skill set, or is he just not wanting to do it, period. So quick way to do it, quick way to see. So again, something you might want to download, save if you keep, documents, files, different resources, saved somewhere, maybe something you can fall back on. Any other comment on that?
Something I liked was that I didn't think about before until this is giving them a choice for the
Mhm,
incentive.
mhm.
Like I use incentives in my class, but it's always the same thing. And
Yeah,
I noticed that with that choice, like some people just don't care if they get to choose a different seat in class.
yeah,
So, but giving them a choice, I think that made a difference too.
sure. Gives them maybe a little bit more ownership in it, where they take a little bit more ownership, a little more pride, maybe take it a little bit more serious, and maybe will work just a little bit harder for you. So, anything else? Any other comment, feedback from that? Anything just stand out to you? Kind of an aha moment? No, not necessarily. No. Okay. All right. Well, again, hope you found it to be worthwhile and it really wasn't a waste of time and maybe you can take something from it. So, looking ahead at this week, you have some of your readings in chapter 6 and 7. some of the things that it's going to focus on, and this is something that we will utilize in probably about another 2 weeks because we're going to start getting into the steps of the FBA. So in this week's reading in chapter 6 and 7, it's going to talk a little bit about graphing behaviors and how to document. It's going to talk a little bit about FBAs, functional behavioral assessments. And then it's also going to talk a little bit about the social skills curricula. And so there's an interesting article. One thing I do want to point out in that discussion that has that link, when you click on that discussion and it pops up the information, right below it also has an attachment, which is that document. For whatever reason, that link is no longer valid, but the document that link would have taken you to is right there. All you have to do is hit download and it pops right up. So it gives you some, basically it's focusing on social skills with students who have autism. And so that is a very common trait. I don't know how many of you guys are actually working with or serve students that have autism. Does anybody have any right now that you're experiencing some real social challenges
I
with
have,
them?
well, I have a total of 3 between
Okay.
my pre-K and my kindergartners,
Okay.
and that I'm having issues with it, and then with a gen ed teacher with one of them. So
Okay, so just social skills in general, or is it more behavioral?
just the whole gamut. She doesn't
Okay,
understand how that would be the least restrictive environment for my students. So
I got you. And sometimes you run into that with gen ed teachers. I mean, they sometimes I've noticed through the years, man, they come in there with blinders on, and we're seeing different levels of autism. Now they're going in and classify them as a level 2 or a level 3. And that's a lot. Like you look at a level 3, we just got one this week that was just categorized as a level 3 that had outside testing. And I'm telling you, it's on a whole different level. I mean, a lot of my staff are just thinking, what in the world do we do here? I mean, it's just, they're all kind of, struggling right now. So,
mine's nonverbal. I
yeah.
mean, he can verbalize, but
Hmm.
just to sit there and carry on a conversation,
Right.
that's not.
Right. We're seeing more and more of those too. I mean, it made me think we've got a middle school kid who's a pretty good sized kid, and verbal skills are very limited, very limited. So again, those are some definite challenges. But when we get into FBAs, how many of you guys have actually been part of the process of doing an FBA and then doing a behavior intervention plan? Have any of you guys experienced that yet? How many of you maybe haven't been in long enough that you've had to deal with it? So um, I challenge you to really, in reviewing those chapters, really study that, because in about 2 weeks is when we start really jumping into it. Next week, in week 4, we're going to start reviewing the parts of that. That's when we're going to start kind of breaking that down, and I'll share something with you to where we can kind of look at it tonight to give you some ideas. But it is a process, okay? And sometimes your gen ed teachers do not understand process. I had a building principal today. I had to sit down and visit with her about just the process on a behavior intervention plan. Okay. That plan is an ongoing working document. Okay. Because you might focus on a specific behavior and you implement that plan, and then you quickly see within 3 to 4 days, it's not working. We need to come back to the table and we need to refocus and get a little bit more specific. So, I'd had that conversation today with a building administrator on that very specific topic that just doesn't know enough about the special education side to understand how lengthy of a process it can be. So, again, really encourage you to focus in on that through your readings. If you look, and I talked about looking ahead, and I'm going to share a couple things for you to start thinking about, okay? Next, this week, you'll have discussion 3. You'll revise and submit your lesson plan. Most everyone's lesson plan was good, the draft copy. Like I said, I made the comment, draft copy looks good, so you literally can just submit it, okay? And then you're going to have your first reflection. So I'm going to get off this schedule and kind of go over to a different part in our module. So this is week 3. We're in the last week of module 1. And so here is the link that I talked about. So if you click on this, And this is the link I talked about. It was broken. It doesn't take you to where you need to be. But the document that you would see if that link was working is right here. Literally, all you have to do is hit download original file. You'll download it. Um, I'm gonna pop it up on my screen for you. It's a PDF, and literally you'll see social skills curriculum for individuals on the autism spectrum. Okay, so this is the actual article that link would have taken you to. Okay, so I didn't want you to get frustrated and go, oh my gosh, the link's not working. What am I going to do? Right below it is the document. Okay, for you. So that is how you access it. Here are some things that it's going to give you the prompts in that discussion after you've read that article, and it's just going to ask you to reflect on some things. Provide a review of 3 social skills curricula that you explored. So it will have that information in there. So it's just going to ask you to name the curricula that you looked at, some what you felt like maybe were some strengths, what you felt like were some weaknesses, and then how you could or would use that specific curriculum with your students. Okay. And so once you post that initial response, just make sure you respond to at least 2 people. Okay. So you can see there's already some in here. All right. Yes, Liz, you have a question?
Yeah, when I looked at that last night, I was trying to do that assignment. And when I was looking at it, I didn't see specifics about the curricula.
Mhm.
I went through the whole list, and what I was finding was just textbooks that you could purchase.
I got you. Okay. Let me go in
I
there and
mean,
look.
I do know about BB Map, and then there was one called Teach, and there was another one that I had written down that, but I couldn't find any information that was detailed.
Okay. So on this list here, the resource list is what you're talking
Mm,
about. Okay. Which
yeah,
ones did you,
because so if you scroll down,
okay.
or yeah, keep going,
Okay.
there's one that says, because some of them here, let me look in my notebook.
Okay.
I have it
Yeah.
here.
We'll take a look at it.
Um, it was underneath um the Social Express. There was a book from Temple Grandin
Oh, Temple.
about,
Yeah.
yeah, there was a book, but you couldn't look inside the book. That was just a book for purchase that I noted
Okay.
down. And then there's Teach Town. So if you go into Teach Town, you will find that that one has a curriculum,
Okay.
but again, you can't really find specifics. All I could find was, the pricing. Again, it's a box curriculum.
I tell
And
you one source, Liz, that you might think about, and I don't know if you considered it or not, but like on Tipping Grandin, and I don't know how familiar you are with her. She
yeah,
she mainly authors several books.
uh-huh,
Her main thing does a lot of public speaking, but so I don't know how much you would actually get on her resource because she primarily is a book writer, um,
right.
not necessarily a curriculum. But on some of these, you could also go in on like Google Scholar and um, do a review on there and find out some of the characteristics of it. So that might be a resource that you want to look at, and even more so
Okay.
on some of the books. So it gives you, I don't know how familiar you are with that, but you can type in, the title of it, or if you have an ISBN number, and it'll pull up a lot of information about that specific resource. And it's on Google. It's
Okay.
one of the apps. It's called Google Scholar.
Uh-huh.
Another
Okay.
is you might ask it to provide a review. I know this may be a touchy thing, but I'm of the opinion that it can be a useful tool. But there are um, AI tools where you can go in if you're having trouble finding and pop that in and ask it to provide a review to give you some ideas. Okay. I'm not saying copy and paste that over, but to help give you some additional resources if you're having trouble finding some reviews. You can
Okay.
go in on that AI tool and punch in, type in. It's all about the prompt and ask it to provide a review on such and such curriculum or such and such book as a resource for autistic students. And it'll provide some information on that specific resource. Again, I'm not saying go in there and copy and paste it and drop it. So in the world of AI, I know we've had lots of discussions on it. It can be a very useful tool if it's used correctly, especially in the special education world with, Magic School AI. Are you guys familiar with that? Magic School, free resource. They also have a paid version. So, especially with you guys that are new in the special ed field, you can go on there and it will help provide you some information as you are developing an IEP for a student. Okay. And it helps it helps you out, cut down on some of the time that you immerse in that. And what's the number one factor you think? I'm just asking you this. What do you think the number one factor in special education teacher burnout is?
The time they spent writing IEP.
The paperwork, right? And so, Dr.
Exactly.
Brooks and I, we discussed this, and we know that now we've got so many going into the field that are going in through alternative routes, and they're being thrown into it. So there are some tools that can help you with time management. Okay, and that's one of them. Okay, it will give you some great starting points. Yeah, you're going to have to add to them. You're going to have to revise and all that, but it will save you lots of time. Okay, so use some of those resources out there. I'm not saying copy and paste and submit it like that by any means at all, but it's a great tool to help get you started and to help manage and maximize your time. So anyway, enough said on that, right? Kind of got off going down a different pathway. So any other question? I think someone was going to say something. I might have interrupted them. So any other comment or trying to find information about some of these? I saw a hand up a while ago and I got started talking about AI and then they put it down.
No, I just said that our
Go ahead, whoever.
I was just going to add the Magic School AI, like
Yeah,
when you get incoming like initial IEPs and you get
yeah,
the big form from the school psych, it's a good way of putting it in instead of having just to go through everything
yeah,
individually and try to weed out. It can collectively give you a nice little map to pick and
yeah,
pull from.
yeah. No, definitely. I mean, there's definitely some great resources that can help you. Again, more along the line of time saving, because again, a while ago I mentioned that's really leads to burnout in special education teachers is all the paperwork and all the time that's put into it. So again, good point where you can take that coming from the school site, drop it in there, and it will help kind of condense that and help you in that IEP writing process. So good point. Any other comment, question on that? Well, I'm gonna drop off of that. Okay, so that is I wanted to show you where that document was because I know that link, that site's no longer there. That's why that document is downloaded. Okay. Looking ahead, here's where you upload your final lesson plan. Most of you guys are in good shape on that already. Your drafts were good. You literally can upload that. Okay. First reflection. This is just kind of reflecting on based on your readings and your discussions in here and seeing the feedback off your post going on the first 3 weeks. It's just asking you to write just a little reflection on this, anywhere from 1 to 2 pages. So maybe a paragraph for each one of these. So here are the prompts. It's just asking you to reflect on what have you learned so far in the course regarding behavior management. Again, a lot of it is, we really didn't have any discussion last week with the internet issue, but going back from your readings, and then also maybe some things that you picked up from the discussions. Okay. The next thing that it's asking you to reflect on, what have you learned about your strengths and areas needing improvement? Okay. What do you feel like right now that you have learned or realized that you think would be your strengths, Heather or Rhonda? And then something that perhaps just from the start of school to now, you're like, hey, this is probably an area I really need to focus on. I know I need to develop some skills here. I need improvement. I always say we don't have problem areas, we have opportunities for improvement. I always tell our staff members that we don't have problems around here, we have opportunities for improvement. Okay. So we always have room to improve. Okay. Regardless how long we've been in it. The next area or the next prompt to reflect on is how do you plan to improve your instructional practices around behavior? So I know a couple of you, one of you just mentioned, hey, I'm in pre-K and K, and I've got these autistic students, and I may be non-speaking, or we're starting to see some behavioral issues. Uh, what are some things already you've noticed, just maybe taken from your readings and from the discussions that other people posted that you could take and maybe help improve some of the instructional practices that you have implemented in your room? The last thing is, what resources do you feel like you need to meet those goals? What resources do you feel like you would need to meet those goals? Okay. Um, I don't know if in Kansas, if you guys have any specific resource or agency that focuses on providing supports, trainings to dealing with autism and specific behaviors related for that. Here in Oklahoma, we have the Oklahoma Autism Center, which is an extension of the University of Oklahoma. Okay, so that's their primary focus. They provide treatment in their facility, do family treatment therapy, but a primary focus of theirs is to go out into the state and do trainings in districts for special education staff members to help them be better equipped to deal with some of the more extreme behaviors that we're seeing that goes along with autistic students. Okay. Because a lot of newer teachers go into that and they're not equipped. And then obviously frustration levels go up and they just in their coursework, it never was really um, focused on a lot. Okay, so I don't know if Kansas has anything like that or not. Do you guys have any particular resource that provides that statewide for you guys? Anyone? No? Everybody's kind of looking at me like, never heard of it. So,
Greenbush might offer something like that.
okay. Like I said, I didn't
Greenbush
know.
has a thing.
Go ahead.
Greenbush has a thing where you can get ASD certified.
Okay.
It's like it's a course, and you you get certified for it.
Okay. One thing that
There's
I
another
look,
one if anybody else wants to do it. It's
go
through
ahead.
TASN. And I took it. It's up at Kansas City. I think they may have one in Wichita. It's a 2-day course. It's called All About You, and it focuses with like the ABC data,
Yeah.
taking and changing behaviors and looking at
Hmm.
cycles and data training, and then taking it back in training.
Hmm.
Your
What
Gen
was
Ed
that
staff
called
prepare.
again?
It's called All About You through TASN.
I don't know if you can, if
TAZN?
you want to put it in the chat box, if you don't
I
mind.
can. Let me go see
Yeah.
if I can find the link and I'll put it in there.
Okay. Yeah, if you can, that'll help. So very somewhat similar to what the Oklahoma Autism Center does. So another like I'll give you an example for our staff. We had several newer special ed teachers. And with the behaviors that we're seeing more and more of, severe behaviors, I took our entire team up for a full-blown training that they provided on how to properly and effectively write or do FBAs and then also writing behavior intervention plans. And we did that. We spent 2 full days doing that. We got subs for them, and because we're just seeing more and more of that, and so they had never had any of that in their formal coursework before they graduated. So again, there's those resources out there. So Brianna's got the link in there now. Thank you so much for putting that in there. I appreciate that. Any other resource that you guys maybe have know of or have heard of?
Our
No?
district does VB map, and that's a box curriculum. It was on the list, but we have VB map. It's for ASD kids.
Okay. So
It's
if you
curriculum
can, you
and
want to put that in the
behavior.
checkbox, that's another good one. So here's another resource, and I can put it in the box. So and they're located here in Oklahoma, but they go all over the United States and train. This curriculum goes everywhere, and it's really more focused toward your middle school, high school, like severe profound students, and it's a full blown. It's called they title it curriculum in a box. It is a full year of curriculum that comes in a big kit, and it's got everything from screeners, full blown curriculum, teaches life skills, everything, and it's called OTECA. And it's OEATCA, I believe. I can get the link and address, so you literally can go to their website. It shows their kits and explains all about it, and then they also will do training for that. They'll do it via Zoom, or they'll travel to you to do it. So it's a great resource. We started using it year before last here, and it's made a big difference with like our middle school and high school kids. So another great resource. So again, that's what we're looking at on the reflection. Okay. I want to jump ahead. I know I'm almost going to kind of go into advanced weeks. I wanted to get to where we're going to start talking about a functional behavioral assessment, just to kind of give you an idea. So there is kind of an overview. I believe it's in week 4, and it talks about this will be a module 2. So it gives you an overview of what FBAs are and why they're used. They're used to determine why students display particular behaviors. Okay. And so it's done, and it helps us pinpoint why they're displaying a particular problem. And it helps us really target that specific behavior for that specific student, and helps us start narrowing everything down so we can take that then and put it into a behavior intervention plan. So this isn't coming up for a couple weeks, but I just kind of wanted to go over it tonight quickly and introduce it to you. So once we start it, it's going to be broken down into about 4 steps. Okay. So the first step we're going to do is our data collection. And so one of you mentioned, I can't remember, a while ago, they talked about the ABC analysis form as one of the resources. And so that's actually some of the documents in here as far as documenting and charting behavior. You'll see there'll be an interview form. And again, some of this correlates with what's in your book. We also have behavior observation chart, and we've got the documents in here for you. ABC analysis. Okay. Going through and doing ABC analysis and doing a frequency and duration when you're charting and monitoring those behaviors. How many times did it occur? How long did it last each time? Okay. So there are copies of each of those 4 documents right here. Again, we'll go into more detail on them. I just kind of wanted to show you where they're at so you'd be familiar with them tonight. Okay. Scatter plotting. Again, another way to graph behavior. Okay, so scatter plotting, you could do it in time sampling, frequency recording, duration recordings. There's different way to graph behaviors, which that's going to talk to you about it in your readings this week. So as you're kind of reading about different ways that that's done, we'll really get into it next week, because all the forms here from some of your readings will be what we discuss next week. So just something for you to kind of think about as we start moving forward on that. Okay. Also, next week, we will talk a little bit about you guys have gotten into groups. And so, kind of, so you can start communicating with each other, because you're going to start having different tasks come up. And we'll get started on that in week 4. That's really kind of the whole focus of next week and what we'll do. But I at least wanted to show you these resources here. You'll be reading about, especially the graphing data, which is very important. That's a big part of the FBA and the BIP, is collecting that data, okay, and being able to take the data and then focus and narrow that down to find out what that specific problem or behavior is. A lot of times where individuals maybe go astray and they don't see immediate results is the behavior that they define or put in those behavior intervention plans are too broad. they're not specific enough. I mean, you just really have to just keep narrowing it down. Okay, so remember, a lot of mistakes or challenges that happen are they just list something that's very broad. Okay, so they don't really pinpoint the behavior, and guess what? It continues, and as a result of that, frustration level goes up. So again, it is a process. Okay, and it all comes from collecting that data. All right. Any questions on that about kind of what we're going to start getting into next week, and we'll break it down and really start moving on the FBA.
Okay, I had a question. So
Sure.
for step one,
Mhm.
I didn't see anywhere to submit these forms. I see where we submit step two for the
Yeah.
FBA, but no
So,
place to submit step one of
right,
the FBA.
step one. So you'll end up submitting the step one stuff when you do later on is the entire document. That step one is collecting the data, and then when you meet with your groups, all that goes into part of step two.
Okay,
Okay, so there's really not technically a place on step one, but we'll start that process next week about
okay,
collecting data and how to go about doing it. And make sure you have a true understanding and familiar with each one of these forms. I'll pop them up just like this, and we'll look at them and go over them and talk about them. Some of them are just simply questionnaires. Okay, here's an interview form. Okay, that's just kind of gives you an example. But like I said, we'll look at each one of those resources and talk about it. Make sure you understand how each one of those works. Here's the ABC analysis form. Okay, you may have something similar to this that you use in your district. Context, the A, antecedent, the trigger. What's the trigger? B, behavior. That's what we're targeting. What's the consequence? Okay, and then over here, I believe it's frequency. Okay, so that gives you an idea on ABC collection form. It's just simple form, and you're documenting. Okay, over a period of time. Right, so it just kind of gives you an example on those. Any questions on that? Any questions, concerns on that? Again, we'll jump
So you
into
want us to go ahead and turn in our lesson plan if you said it was all
you.
right?
You can if I put on there, and a majority of them I did. Okay, I put on their draft copy of lesson plan looks good. If you got a message that says that exactly or something very similar, you're good to go. If you got something where I put specific information on it, hey, you might want to go back and look at this section or look at that, change this, then that's what you would need to do. But for the most part, from what I remember, everybody was in good shape. Looked good. Okay. So if your draft was good, turn around and submit it. Okay. Any other question? As those start coming in, if you do, and as I'm checking emails, I always look to see if I've got assignments that need to be graded. So I'll go ahead and start scoring those if you go ahead and upload them. Okay. So that's just one thing less that you have to worry about. Discussions, if you just so you kind of know, and I always told you, or I tell every group that I always try to make sure I have everything graded for the week that we just ended on Sunday, like when assignments due by the end of the day, Tuesday. So if you have worked a little bit ahead and you got your discussion board posted, I always go in there and look, but I'll look, and if you haven't responded to two peers, I won't go ahead and score it. I'll wait and give you that chance. So let's say, for example, Sydney, I'm going to use you as an example, okay? Let's say Sydney's already got her initial discussion board post done. Let's just say it's on there, and I thought, oh, I've got one to grade, and I go on there and pull it up and look, but she hasn't responded to two people. I won't score it. I'll wait and see. Does that make sense on that on the discussion boards? But if it's a written assignment, a reflection paper, and you submit it, and I see it's in there on a Wednesday or something, I'll go ahead and score it. Okay. Any other questions? Before we get off here tonight, if you guys would, if you don't mind, because it helps, this is how I give you participation points and things like that. So if you don't mind to put your name in the chat, the recording will pick it up and it gives me a transcript. And that's how I go in there and add those points in. So if you guys can just make sure your name's in there. Those of you that share those resources, I appreciate it. That helps a lot. I'll get that link for the OTECA Again, they go nationwide, but they're based out of Oklahoma, and it was all started by veteran special education teachers that had 30 years plus, and then they retired, and they're like, hey, we have an idea. This is something that we wish we could have had. And so they developed it, fine tuned it, and it just took off. So I'll get the link for that if you want to check out that resource. Maybe an option for you. Okay. Any other questions before we go? Concerns? Again, kind of went over what we got coming up. You got the lesson plan due this Sunday. I think you have a discussion board post and that reflection with those 4 questions to reflect on. Okay. That'll be due Sunday. Next week, we'll jump right in, start the FBA process. Everyone good? Any questions? No? All right. I was telling someone on there a while ago, it's hump day, so it's downhill from here. Someone said, man, I've had a busy week already. So it's kind of part of it, right? Hang in there. If you have any questions, email them. Remember, check them early in the morning, again after 5 in the afternoon, okay? You guys have a good remainder of your week. Thank you. Appreciate it. See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.